Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnana-shalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kwadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mataji, so I think Kritika Mataji might be having internet problems, so we'll just start with our session. So first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be able to come and serve all of you, serve the Srimad Bhagavatam. I start the session today with paying my obeisances to my Guru. Without his mercy and without mercy of Radha Krishna, I wouldn't have been able to do the service at all. So thank you very much to all of you again. It's a very, very technical chapter, and we have senior devotees in the team. So if I'm going wrong anywhere, I really would encourage and request you to please correct me. I know Indulekha Mataji, you've been teaching on this as well. So kindly correct me, you and all other Prabhujis and Mataji, if I'm going wrong anywhere. So we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam 2.5.31 and 32 today. But before we start, would anyone want to do the two invocation verses?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you for coming again. Yeah, I can, but yes, Mataji, I did the class yesterday. I am just like you, we are all learning, so please don't think that you need correction. I don't think you need correction. So yeah, I can do the free prayers, and if you want me to read the verses also, I can try. Okay? Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtapraishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Utam Slokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. So I just read the first verse, which is 2.5.31. Taijasat tu vikurvanad indriyani dasha bhavan Jnana Shakti Kriya Shakti Buddhi Pranascha Taijasau Shrotram Tvakrana Drikjiva Bhaktor Metram Kiri Pavayavaha. Apologies for my really bad Sanskrit. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By further transformation of the mode of passion, The sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and living energy, are all generated. Purport: the living condition in material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful living energy. Intelligence to counteract the hard struggle for existence is assisted by the senses for acquiring knowledge, and the living energy maintains himself by manipulating the active organs like the hands and legs. But on the whole, the struggle for existence is an exertion of the mode of passion. Therefore, all the sense organs headed by intelligence and the living energy, prana, are different products and byproducts of the second mode of nature called passion. This mode of passion, however, is the product of the air element as described before. Verse 32. Yadaite shangata bhava bhutendriya manogunaha yadayantana nirmane nashekur pamavitama. Translation: O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Purport: the different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like the different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 18.61. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature, just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent material scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of the material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will, to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over the things they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, nature. They accept the Maya or the maidservant as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be feminine, goddess Durga, etc. The foolish childlike materialist cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant, material nature, but the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord, just as a maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. The parts of the body, such as the senses, are the creation of the Mahatattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence, and the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. This is explained as follows. Okay, so we are doing these two verses today. So just for my benefit as well, I think just give me a second. Let's do there's some problem with my just for my benefit as well. We'll just go through a little bit of a recap, just because it's a continuous chapter and there's this continuity, and without talking about the previous verses a bit, it won't be able to come into this verse, verses 31 and 32. So this section of the Bhagavatam, we speak about the cosmic manifestation or the creation of the Lord. And as we have seen that that Narad Muni is asking questions to Lord Brahma. Now, he is an exalted devotee, as we know, but his bewilderment, I mean, we understand that Narad Muni is an enlightened personality. So we may think as to why he is asking the questions about creation to Lord Brahma when he is well aware of it. But we also understand that his bewilderment is the plan of Krishna, just as Arjuna's bewilderment, Maharaj Parikshit's bewilderment, all of these great devotees who are exalted devotees and enlightened devotees, all of their bewilderment are plans of Krishna, because it is a way for us, the conditioned souls, to understand the greatness of the Lord. And now, when we here the other day, we were talking about how to understand the Lord. So if we try to understand the Lord by listening to his glories, by listening about his opulences, by reading about what he can do, and the fact that he's the supreme personality of Godhead. He's the core, he's the absolute core to everything, the whole of creation. We get the feeling of Aishwarya, of the greatness of the Lord. And if you want to understand, if we want to not just understand the Lord, but we want to love the Lord, we want to be a devotee, that is when we have to see the Lord through the eyes of a devotee, because the devotee thinks of the Lord as his or her own, with a rasa, with a bhava, with feelings. And as soon as that feelings is mixed with the sense that, you know, I'm the Lord is everything, and I'm completely surrendered to the Lord, because as the tiny jiva, I'm unable to do anything. That is when the jiva is given the knowledge to be enlightened and understand and love the Lord and practice bhakti. So when we see Narad Muni asking Lord Brahma about creation, he mentions that, you know, we understand that creation does not happen by chance. I mean, we can see that the law of the universe happens automatically. We see the sun rising at a definite time and setting at a different time every day. We see the seasons coming and going. So there is the law of nature, and if there is a law, that law is being controlled by somebody. So Narad Muni says that I would want to know the absolute truth as to where this is coming from. And he says that, you know, knowledge, such knowledge cannot just be gained only through reading something. And that is where, you know, we are mentioned about the disciplic succession and how we must try to understand knowledge. And I dwell upon knowledge because our verse today is also linked to knowledge, and what type of knowledge we need to understand. Now, throughout the Shastras and also in the previous verses, we have heard about how knowledge really should come through a disciplic succession, through the acharyas, through the bona fide guru. But it is also based on, you know, how the disciple accepts that knowledge. And we'll discuss a bit more of it when we go into our verse today. So, I mean, wanted to share a really a pastime I came across in one of the teachings, where Prabhuji was, where Maharaj was talking about a devotee who used to worship Mother Durga or Mother Kali, and he was a drunkard, but he was a devotee of Mother Kali. So one day he got drunk, and then he went to his guru, and he said, "Give me a mantra, and I want to worship Mother Kali better. Just give me a mantra." And the guru said, "But you won't be able to accept it because you're not in your senses." And the devotee said, "No, I will understand." So the guru gave him a mantra, and the man, he because he was drunk, he took the mantra, but he understood it wrong. So from the next day he started doing the mantra, but he would do the mantra wrongly, because when taking the mantra from his guru, he understood it wrong. And he would sit in front of Mother Kali, and he would recite the wrong mantra every single day. And Mother Kali would listen to it. And one of the days, she just got really irritated. She said, "Why is this person coming to me every single day, diligently sitting in front of me and then saying the wrong mantra every day?" So she came to meet him. And she said, I'm pleased that you are here and you're doing the mantra every day. But do you know that you're actually reciting the wrong mantra? And the disciples and the devotee said, "It can't be the wrong mantra. My guru gave the mantra to me. It cannot be the wrong mantra." And Mother Kali said, "No, but it is the wrong mantra. It's either your guru who's given you the wrong mantra, or you have heard it wrong." So the devotee said, "It is me who must have heard it wrong. But even saying this wrong mantra, if you have come to give me darshan, then how great is my guru, that even by saying a wrong mantra, which he gave, or whether it's my fault or whether he gave me a wrong mantra, if that wrong mantra is able to give me your darshan, then just how great is my guru, and whatever he says is the absolute truth to me." So Mother Kali was so pleased to hear about this and the devotion to his guru, and she obviously corrected him and blessed him more for not being a devotee of her, but being a true devotee, a true disciple of his guru. So when we think of knowledge coming through the disciplic succession to us, Narad Muni asking Lord Brahma, we have to understand that the knowledge that we want to gain about, and we are trying to understand the knowledge of creation in this chapter. We have to understand that we need to understand the knowledge rightly, in the right sense, and with the open mind that whatever is coming through the gurus is the absolute truth. And so Lord, very quickly, so Lord Brahma describes, in the first few verses, from verse 9 to say about 17-ish, Lord Brahma describes the greatness of the Lord, and we see when a devotee gets the opportunity to talk about the greatness of the Lord, a devotee is always happy. So Lord Brahma very happily talks about, the Lord, and gives examples like the seed, which is created by the Lord. I mean, the fact that he is only the secondary creator. He may be the gardener who waters the seed, but the absolute magic contained in the seed, which grows into a plant, into a tree, and then fruits and flowers, that is the entire creation of the Lord. However, the Lord never ever comes into contact, because the Lord is spiritual in nature. The Lord does not come in contact with the material energy, but it is the problem of these of the conditioned souls who see such creations. They think that it is Lord Brahma who's creating, because their understanding is not correct, because they are conditioned souls, and they, just as they keep thinking that it is me, it is mine, and I am, I know everything, it is my house, my car, my knowledge. Similarly, when they hear about creation, they automatically wrongly think that it is Lord Brahma. But Lord Brahma clarifies that he's only being able to create all of this because he has been empowered. And then we come to the next section, which includes our verse today. And in the next section, starting from say verse 18 and going up to say verse 33 or so, Lord Brahma describes the actual creation. And in doing so, he starts with the difference between the Lord and the living entity. So, so we've heard about various ways in which we can differentiate the Lord and the living entity. We know as jivas, we are parts and parcels of the absolute Lord. The Lord is the creator and the controller, and we are qualitatively, we are the same, but quantitatively, we are minute in nature. So just as the example we are given many times of being a drop of water in an unlimited, unending ocean, where that drop of water has the same quality as all the water in the ocean, but it is only tiny and minuscule in comparison to the vastness of the ocean. But what the our verse today touches upon, or what this section of this chapter touches upon when trying to differentiate between the Lord and the jivas, is the spiritual nature of the Lord. That the Lord is absolutely Satchit Ananda, eternal bliss and knowledge, and eternal knowledge and bliss, and in the absolute purest spiritual form. There is nothing material about the Lord. Whereas us, and that is where the creation comes in, everything around us and us, although our soul is spiritual in nature, but that soul is contained in a body which is material and made of material modes of nature, and lots of other material elements, which comes from the external energy of the Lord. Now, as we know, Krishna has unlimited energies and potencies, and from his external energy comes the three modes of nature, and that is where the start of creation, or the major part of the creation starts. And we know that our actions are controlled by these modes of nature completely. So Brahma tries to, Brahma tells Narad Muni, just like the Lord is the controller of every living entity, similarly, the Lord is also the controller of him, the secondary creator. So this creation of talking about the creation and how the Lord creates the entire material universe, material creation, has been described in Srimad Bhagavatam quite a few times, briefly in Canto 2, then in Canto 3, and also briefly in Canto 10. Now, in this chapter, as we are doing, you know, a brief summary of this chapter, we find out in the verses just previous to the one we are doing that the first expansion of Krishna is in relation to the material world comes in the form of the Purusha avatars. So in wanting to create the material world, the Lord first, you know, he has many types of avatars. We have heard about that the acronym of Jim Please, GYMPLS, where Guna Avatar, then Yuga Avatar, Shakti Avatar, then we have the Purusha Avatars, Leela Avatars, and what have I missed? Manvantara avatars. So the Lord has many avatars, but for the material creation, to start the material creation, he starts with the Purusha avatars, with Karanadaksha Vishnu. And we understand that in the vast spiritual sky, in the vast spiritual world, in one corner, there's this tiny cloud-like thing. Okay, and in comparison to the spiritual world, it is only 1/4 of it. The spiritual world is 3/4 of that, the entirety. And in this cloud, that cloud that appears is called Pradhan. And what is this Pradhan? Now, because it's related to our verse today, and you will have covered Pradhan in the previous verses, just, you know, in the verse or two ago. Would anyone like to say what Pradhan is?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Pradhan is kind of, it happens, it's there before, it's kind of a bowl of mush. We can put it in this way, right? If you don't mind. And then from Pradhan, when the Lord glanced at it, then it started, then creation started from it, right? And then from Pradhan, we got the Mahatattva, the false ego, right? And from there, it goes down like sky and air, then fire, then water, then earth, and come down. I hope I'm correct.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Mataji. Thank you so much. So yes, so we understand. So this cloud-like thing, it is called Pradhan, and Pradhan has all the material elements, but all of these elements are present in the dormant state. Okay, so they're in an unmixed form of equilibrium, but they're you know, in their unmanifested state, dormant. All the material elements that are required to create the material world. So that's what the Lord puts all these material things into that tiny cloud in the spiritual sky, and makes it, and that is the Pradhan. And Prabhupada, at times, he would refer to this cloud or the Pradhan as the water, or the cold lotion, or the Karana Jala, so on which the Lord, the Mahavishnu or Karanadaksha Vishnu lies. And when Mahavishnu lies, you know, unlimited number, and when he breathes in and out, unlimited number of universes come out from the pores of his body, and you know, they are created, maintained, and annihilated all by the Lord. Now, this Pradhan, again, to link to the verse today, this Pradhan, as we said, it is in its dormant state. All the material elements are there, but in its dormancy. And then the Lord, Mahavishnu, now remember, Mahavishnu is also spiritual, so he has nothing, he cannot touch. He cannot touch Pradhan because Pradhan has the material elements in it. So what does he do? He glances at Pradhan. Okay, so when he glances at Pradhan, that breaks the equilibrium. and that creates it ripens the pradhan, if you can say it in that way. So if we say, and this is probably an analogy, I might have mentioned this before. So if we talk of pradhan being a 5-year-old child, 5-year-old girl child who has the capacity by the laws of nature, because a woman is able to bear children. So that 5-year-old child maybe in the future will have the capacity to be able to bear children, but at a 5-year-old, that girl child is not ready. So that's pradhan in the stage of dormancy. When it is by the will of the Lord, when it ripens, it goes to a stage when the girl child is ready to be able to bear children. However, okay, all the material and the elements are active now because the Lord's glance, because of, by the arrangement of Mahavishnu, but it still does not have the jivas in them. So remember, the material energy, the material creation has to start with not just the elements, but we need to have the jivas as well. Otherwise, where would all the interaction go on? So again, so that glance continues, and this time the Lord injects, or rather impregnates Mahatvattva through his glance. And when he impregnates, what does his glance contain? At that time, his glance contains kal, or time. It contains the jivas, the souls, and the karmic reactions, the karma of and the desires of those souls, because those individual souls will need to be given bodies, as we will hear, according to the karma that they have accrued. So that is when it becomes the material energy or prakriti, and that is when it becomes fully ripened to start with the creation, the material creation. And then in the previous verses, just in the previous verse, we've learned about how these material elements, these material energies, the Lord has the 3 modes of nature. The material energies are divided in a very, very quick way. These material energies are divided in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And through ignorance, we have the gross elements, which come, the 5 gross elements, which make up the content, the major content of the material world. And then we see the mode of goodness gives rise to the mind, and also the demigods who are in control of the various things, and we call the demigods of directions. And also, when we I was hearing another Prabhuji saying that when one becomes a devotee, and again we come to knowledge, when one becomes a devotee, because if you remember, in the previous canto, we talked about how each part of the body is compared to a god, or how it is attached to a planet. So as soon as one tries to become a devotee, the demigod who's in control of our eyes, or our nose, or our ears, or our hands, or our legs, would help us more to be able to connect with the Lord more. So it's not just, so that's where all the demigods and the, comes along with the mode of goodness. So they're not just only in control of the various directions, but all of us, that goes on with us. If you're wanting to become a devotee, that is where the demigods will help us. And then we talk about the mode of passion. And we hear and we understand that in verse 31, we see that how all the senses, by further transformation from the mode of passion, all the senses, which are the ears, the skin, the nose, the eyes, the tongue, the mouth, the hands, the genitals, the legs, and the outlet for evacuating all the waste products from our body, together with intelligence and living energy, though these are all generated from the mode of passion. Okay, so we understand the gross elements are come from the mode of ignorance, from the false ego. We understand that mind comes from the mode of goodness, and now we understand that all our senses, along with our intelligence and the living energy, which is the prana, the life prana, that these are generated from the mode of passion. Now, a brief word on intelligence and why Lord Brahma gives so much importance to the intelligence, and why Prabhupada also talks about intelligence in the purport. And we see how intelligence is what makes us different as living entities to other living entities. Now we see that we are not as big as an elephant or a whale. We cannot run as fast as a cheetah. We cannot jump from one tree to another like a monkey does, but we can see that because we have the intelligence, because human beings have the intelligence, they are able to control and subjugate other living entities. I mean, right from the smallest of the, those tiny insects which can get into books or bookworm, or you get into insects that get into wood, and they eat into those things, and they're able to break up those wooden furniture, or tear up a paper. We can't do from the smallest to the biggest whale. We are all able to subjugate these living entities only through our intelligence. And the more intelligent one is, the more one can manipulate the material nature, okay? Either for their own sense gratification, or for the sense gratification of Krishna, for pleasing Krishna. And this ability to discriminate, whether I want to use my intelligence to serve Krishna, or just to, serve my own senses, this ability to discriminate is what makes up a man. Okay, a jiva, and establishes the karmic reaction of that person, establishes what the real knowledge has been acquired by that jiva. So by using this intelligence is what helps us reach the end goal. So when we are saying, when it's mentioned in the verse that yes, the mode of passion also includes intelligence, we have to understand that, within that intelligence, there are two parts of it. So there is that one part of intelligence which can lead us towards the mode of goodness. Remember, mode of passion is right in the middle. So if we use our intelligence for the right and identify the end goal, that can lead us towards the mode of goodness and help us reach, better ourselves and go beyond the three modes of nature if possible. And that should be the goal, what we should aspire for and try to do. However, if that intelligence is tainted and is conditioned to such an extent that it doesn't go beyond satisfying own senses, then that drags us down to the mode of ignorance. So that is why intelligence is given so much importance in this verse. The other thing which is given importance in this verse is the life energy, or the pranas. Now, in previous, so again, a very quick question, because this might have been touched. Does anyone know what do we understand by prana, or the life energy? So it is air, it is the life air, which is, and we have learned in the previous cantos as well. We've also learned in the Bhagavad Gita about how yogis are able to control their pranas, their life air within themselves, and how they're able to do all kinds of things by controlling that life air, and even whether it's going somewhere or doing different things, they are able to control their life, but through that life air. And how do we understand? But just before we go to no, let me come to it later. Yeah. So how important is this life air? We've heard about the 10 different pranas, the 5 main ones. I don't think we have time to go into that. I can send it to you later on. But the main thing is that the reason prana is mentioned over here in this verse is because, again, it can be used in the right way or in the wrong way. So you have yogis who are able to control their life air, and they're able to, they float on air, they're able to walk on water, they're able to, go to different places, or just do all kinds of things by or practice all kinds of austerities by controlling the life air inside them. We've seen how Hiranyakashipu, he did so much austerity when he was praying to Lord Shiva. I mean, and until the ants bit into, they ate his flesh, his blood, everything, but and created an anthill around over him. But he was able, Hiranyakashipu was able to maintain his life air within his bones, and that is how he stayed alive. So we can see that, how the material energy or the material body, how that can be maintained or can be controlled by controlling the life air. Now, we've talked a bit about the gross elements right at the beginning. So how that constitutes to the material elements that make up, that start with that is required for us to have a body. So when we want to have a body, when that prakriti, when the jivas are injected into a mahatattva with time, with their karma, they need a lot of things to make up their whole body. And the whole body is not just the mode of passion. Their whole body is the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. So they have the mind, they have the 5 gross elements, they have their indriyas, the karmendriyas and the gyanendriyas, and they have their subtle body, the intelligence, and they also have their prana, the life energy. And Prabhupada says that unless and until all of these come together, the body is the material body of a living entity cannot be created. So all of these need to come together. And I'm just really jumping because there's only 5 minutes left. So the sense organs, the intelligence, the life energies, they are all products and byproducts of the mode of passion. Okay, and they all need to come together, just like a car can be assembled with various parts, and it becomes a car. Now, the soul may be seated in the car, but the car, it can be, you know, ridden, or, you know, the one controlling the car is the material modes of nature, the material energy. So the soul is seated in that car, just like the soul is inside our body. But what is driving our actions is the 3 modes of nature. And as with our mind, with our intelligence, the more we are able to control these material modes of nature, the better it is for that soul to come out of that conditioned state. So verse 32 talks a lot about how the Lord allows us to have this bit of free energy. Because remember, we are parts and parcels of the Lord. And the Lord, by nature, is independent. And because we are parts and parcels of the Lord, we also have that tiny bit of independent nature in us. So that makes us want to lord over, you know, everything. So we split away from the Lord, and the Lord allows those jivas who want to go away from him, the Lord allows them to enter into Mahatattva and gives them all these material elements, the gross elements, the indriyas, the mind, the intelligence, the prana. The Lord gives them all these material elements, which assembled together makes the body of a living entity, whether it's a human body or the body of any other you know, living entity, whichever form. Can be a tree, can be an animal, can be an insect. And just like a father, and Prabhupada in the purport gives another example, just like a father wants to please a son or a child who wants to play with playthings and wants to be happy. The child says, you know, I want this, I want to, you know, I want to have an ice cream, or I want a toy house, or I want this, or I want that. And just like a father wants to please the child by giving that child those playthings, either directly or through an agent. The father might ask another person to buy those things for the child. Similarly, the Lord has given us all of these material energies, all of these material things, and created these material things just so that the jivas wanting to live independently can have these material things and have a body to be able to enjoy that independence that they wanted when leaving the spiritual, when wanting to leave the spiritual world. So when they wanted to leave the spiritual, and that is the core of creation, that is why material creation was created. So had it only been the soul wanting to just come out of the spiritual world, they wouldn't have been able to exist, because they cannot be the Lord in the spiritual world, because that is where the Lord is. That, you know, the Lord is the Lord of the spiritual world. He's the Lord of everything. But because they have this separate desire to want to lord, they had to come to the material world. And how can they do that? That is the reason that material world was created for them. And what is inside that material world? All these material elements which have been created by the external energy of the Lord through the three material modes of nature. And under every single of these three modes of nature, they are further they come down to what each contain, whether the gross elements, whether the indriyas, whether the mind, or the passion, the mode of passion is that contains the intelligence and the senses and the prana. But we are also reminded in verse 31 a bit that the prana, that this mode of passion also again comes from air. So which we talked about a few verses ago. So these two verses, so to quickly summarize, these two verses is verse 31 again is a continuation of, just telling us about what the mode of passion contains, because it has been described in the previous verses what the mode of ignorance and what the mode of goodness contains. And then in verse 32, it is Brahma tells Narad Muni that Narad, you now understand, or I think I know you already understand that, I have talked about the separate elements under each of the modes. However, unless and until all of these come together and are assembled together, you cannot have a material body. And you need that material body for that jiva to exist, for that soul to exist. And that is the complete creation. So the creation, obviously goes on in the further verses. This is further broken up and further talked about in more details. But this is the initial stage of how the creation starts. Okay, so I'll stop here today. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss this very, very technical canto and verse. Again, if I have made any mistakes, I was to talk a bit about, a few other things, but there's just no time. And apologies, I couldn't bring in any pastimes today because I usually talk a little bit. I usually include a few pastimes, but there wasn't time to do that today. So again, apologies if I've made any mistakes, and if there are any corrections, please do correct me.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for this session today. I know it's technical, but you have simplified it a lot. And you've given us from pradhan to the mode of passion and how the material body takes in place. Mataji, I have probably missed out on few sessions. That's why I have a doubt. In this grand scheme of things that you've explained today, from pradhan to the body, where is Mahatattva? The one that is the false ego, where does that lie?
So pradhan turns to Mahatattva. So pradhan is the dormant state. And then when dormant state is agitated by that becomes Mahatattva. But remember, the first stage of Mahatattva is still where it's active. All the material elements are active, but still not completely ripened enough to become Prakriti, material nature. So that is where the kala and the jivas are injected, and then it becomes the complete ripened Mahatattva, and then and further into Prakriti, and then that's where the material creation starts.
Thank you. It's been clarified. Any questions or comments from Mataji? I think she has really simplified the session.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for giving us this detailed explanation. Very nice. The pradhana, it is like dormant, as we know, but pradhana, which will be like prakriti after, then will be impregnated. But the glance of Lord Vishnu, that glance, it's not Lord Vishnu, it's the glance turn into Sadashiva. Then Sadashiva will inject into material nature, because Lord Vishnu cannot impregnate Mother Durga. It must be Lord Shiva, right? So the glance turned into Mahavishnu. That's why we say they are non-different. They are like milk and curd. In Brahma Samhita it says, right? Chiram dadhati. So that is like curd cannot turn into milk, whereas milk can turn into curd. And that is what happens there. That is, and then you talk about the siddhis, that like the mystic powers which they can become. So there are 8 of them, and all 8 of them, the Lord possesses them in unlimited quantities. And they are like anima siddhi, they can become like smallest than an atom. And then you get mahima siddhi, they can become biggest, right?
There are
and then
eight
garima,
different types, yes, larger and bigger.
yes, and garima becomes very heavy, not in size but in weight. That is garima. And lagima, like they can become very light and they can fly. So in this way, there are 8 of them. Like prapti, they can get anything. They can obtain, and even in the desert, they can obtain water. Even in the middle of the ocean, they can obtain rock with the city that they have. And then when another one is parakramya, that is they can produce anything. Produce anything at will. And then it becomes Ashita and Vashita, and that also is a lot to that one. People have it. Many people have it. How? They learn it, and then they can do what you have in your mind, what you are planning to do, and they can even change your plan, change your mind. Suppose this is something I'm going to tell you. It's funny. Mataji, can you stop recording, please?
Mataji, can you say it later on? Let Pramila Mataji.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Because then I can't
Mataji.
continue recording after that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have changed our format a little bit, Mataji, and we have Pramila Mataji, who now just gives the outline of the whole session today. So she summarizes the session. So Pramila Mataji, over to you.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you, Panchali Mataji, for such a lovely discourse and simplifying it. I'm just more or less echoing some of the things you've said. And forgive me for any errors. Plus, I had some disturbances, the front doorbell ringing and all that sort of thing. So I might have missed out some of it. So you gave us, Mataji, a little recap, first of all, on on the cosmic manifestation or the creation of the Lord, which is what this chapter is about. And Narad Muni is asking Lord Brahma. Now, Narad Muni is an enlightened soul. He doesn't need to ask these questions, the same as Arjun with Lord Krishna in the Gita. But the Lord is very kind to us. He has planned all this to help us to understand and to learn. So if we read and listen about the opulences of the Lord, we will get the feeling of his greatness. And if we want to understand the Lord, we have to accept his devotees. Now, creation does not happen by chance. There is a law of nature. And excuse me, Narad Muni asks he wants to know the truth about this knowledge. So we need to understand the knowledge from a guru. And you give us a lovely example of the devotee of Mother Kali and how he felt that, his guru was great in spite of giving him the wrong mantra because Mother Kali appeared to him. So we need to try and understand the knowledge. So as jivas, we are all part and parcels of the Lord. The Lord is Satchitananda, and our soul is contained in this material body, and our actions are controlled by the modes of nature. So you told us that creation is described in various cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the first expansion of Krishna is in the form of the Purusha avatars. So the Lord has many avatars, but he starts creation as Karoda Dakshai Vishnu. And you talked about the Mahatattva and Pradhan, and in a part of the spiritual sky where it is sort of covered like with a cloud sort of thing, is the Mahatattva. And that's when Pradhan is glanced at with the Lord, and the material elements are agitated. So we are covered with all the material elements which are dormant, and it is required for creation. Now, Srila Prabhupada, I think I didn't get that too right, the doorbell rang. Pradhan is in its dormant stage, and then the Lord glances at Pradhan, and that is when the elements are active. But it's without the jivas. Then the Lord glances at Pradhan, and time, the individual souls with their karmic desires are injected into Pradhan. So these material elements are three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Goodness leads to the mind. And when we try to become a devotee, the demigods actually help us to connect to the Lord. And in the mode of passion, in verse 31, all the senses, and I just name a few: the nose, the ears, the tongue, the genitals, etc., together with intelligence, is generated from passion. And intelligence, with our intelligence, we are able to control other living entities. And we have the ability to discriminate what makes up a jiva and establish the karmic reaction. So intelligence can lead us on two paths: in the mode of goodness, or it can lead us on to satisfying our senses, or it can lead us to ignorance. And yogis can control the life air, prana, as mentioned, because it can be used in the right or wrong way. So when we desire to have a body, sense, organs, life, sorry, I missed out on that again. I had a disruption. So when we can control the modes of nature, it helps us to get out of this material body. We have some independence as we are part and parcels of the Lord. And the Lord gives us all the material elements and energies assembled together so we can follow our desires independently. Now, that is the reason why the material was created for us, because we wanted our independence away from the Lord. And in these two verses, it talks about what the modes contain and the elements assembled so we can have a body. So thank you, Mataji, and please forgive my mistakes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for that wonderful summary. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can end the session, but after ending the session, Lekha Mataji can give her input. So devotees who want to stay can stay on. So Arya Govind Prabhu, is it possible for you to end our session today? Thank Mataji and end the session.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to everyone. Thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful, all those simple rendering of this verse, because it is a complex matter, as you were saying, and we need to understand it very well, and you have done it really well. And also I thank Pramila Mataji for wonderfully summing these verses every day. And then I don't know, I can't imagine how she's doing it, but she's doing it wonderfully. Thank you so much, Mataji. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in glorification of these two wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha कृपासिन्धुभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णविन की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, पंचाली माता जी की जय। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you so much.
Simple
Thank you.
messages.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.